All right, shalom, shalom. For the foremost, we'll start by saying, call Allah, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Chakodash. I want to give double honor to the elders and apostles of the great millstone who do it well, who teach me his truth, as well as say shalom to the hopeful elect. I can't put in his word in true sincerity. And Lord willing, the lesson be edifying. Okay, going into just I'll start this Hosea 12:10. It says, I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. Right, so the how about Shemal Shai, since going all the way back to the beginning, right? The Lord has always been dealing with a particular elect a few men, right? He's always dealing with his men who he was showing his secrets unto, right? But soon Amos 3:7 says, surely the Lord will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants the prophets. So whether you hear it for bear and whether you can receive it or not, there are particular men who are on earth who will be teaching, the truth and have the true doctrine, the true understanding, understand the dark sayings and the parables roomed in the scriptures, being able to interpret these different things, all right, directly and correctly, right? And ultimately, they'll be the ones who the Lord is dealing with in the latter days, right? That's not a new thing, right? When you go to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 28 and verse 7, it says, nevertheless, hear thou now this word that I speak in thine ears and in the ears of all the people, right? The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence. So us being here in Babylon the Great, all right, the extension of that fourth beast in Daniel the 7th chapter, right, that little horn that will rise up, being the rebirth and revival of the Roman Empire that we're currently living in today. All right, well, we have really amidst the very last kingdom and empire that was standing on the earth before the establishment of the kingdom of heaven, man, right? So what was the Lord need to do? He needs to send his prophets out. I mean, that's what's happened, right? Begin what else an apostle, great millstone, right? Who has to lay the foundation for us to come into this thing. All right, and actually, those men who we're entering into, who the Lord is clearly dealing with in these times. This is the way the truth is going out. And pursuing the Matthew 24th chapter, when it says what, this word must go out to all nations as a witness to all nations, and then the end can come, right? The very fact that the Lord has his men out on the highways and byways and chief places of concourse, right, pushing his word throughout the internet, right, so all kindreds and all tongues can receive it. We're just heading over at the end, when the scriptures speak about measuring the time diligently in itself, that's what that's describing, man. That's what it's talking about, all right? When you look around and you see the current state of things and you match it up and you filter it through the prophecy that's written within the scriptures, well, you can get an idea of the times we're living in, all right? You can get an understanding that we're at the very end of this heathen, wicked kingdom, right? In this present evil world that we currently have to suffer, right? When you look at who's ruling, who's in power, who's in authority, right? All these things are in the scriptures. Esau, Edom being the one who's actually has the earth given into his hands in these latter days. Well, then that's how we can know. Okay, well, that means what? The scriptures say that in 2 Ezra 6:9 that Esau is the end of the world and Jacob's beginning with that followeth. The very fact that Esau's ruling should be a clear indicator of the times that we're living in, right? So that's an example of how you're able to measure the times diligently, right? And as to get an understanding of what you're living in. But how do you do that? Again, you do that by getting the correct breakdown and get the correct understanding, right, from a teacher, right, a prophet. The very word prophesy in itself, right, means to speak before or to say before, all right? So that's exactly what the Lord ordains particular men to do, to blow that trumpet and give that warning, all right, before the judgment comes forth, as we read in Jeremiah 28th chapter, right? This is this is good too, but this isn't the priest I wanted, but I'll get it real quick. This is Romans chapter 13 and verse 11. It says, and I know in the time that now is a high time to wake out of sleep, for now is our salvation near the one we believe. Right. The beloved elder Yashawamba, all right, always goes into this point that The very fact that the elect are being gathered and we lead seeing the fact that we're part of this thing, teaching the truth, again, going out to the highways and byways, right? You guys are seeing the camps come together. You're seeing Ezekiel 37 chapter come to pass, and the two, all the tribes being joined as one, and as he teaching, right, on one accord. The very fact that this is happening is how you know right at the end that's one of the heaviest prophecies that's come to pass. That you should be able to that you can clearly see, right? Before you even start talking about seeing chariots and seeing and MOTB being put into place, and World War III being on the rise. Before you even start going to all that, the very fact that do we have this truth is an indicator of the times that we're living in, right? It's an indicator that our salvation is near than we even believe that it is, man. All right. It's But this is why I wanted to get to Romans 10. This is Romans chapter 10 and verse 13. It says, "For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And how then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him who they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher?" Right? So you need someone to actually get this understanding unto you. Oftentimes people want to listen to their church pastors, right? They want to listen to these so-called what's the term? These so-called scholars, right? Who go into the theologian schools, etc., right? Who claim to be well studied, right, within the scriptures. But what ultimately at a certain point, however far back you want to track it, at some point it has to start with the Lord divinely inspiring and giving the wisdom to a man on earth, right? It's not going to be just where how else would you get the actual understanding and the interpretation and the breakdown of these scriptures, right? At a certain point, the Lord has to be dealing with particular men, right? And that's just it. The vast majority of our people have a real issue with the fact that, and of course the heathen, but the heathen are completely irrelevant, right? The Lord is only dealing with the nation of Israel, and it's our own people who have the most issue with that, right? It's our own people who come up against us the most, who scoff us the most, right? Who don't want to take heed to the men of the Lord who are actually teaching the truth, and actually telling them that they're the chosen, right? But it's only but at a certain point, what scriptures say. Revelation 21, the 21st chapter and the 3rd verse, that the tabernacle of the Most High is with men. So at a certain point, certain men you're going to have to be willing to subject yourself unto, or the Lord is going to kill you, right? It's very simple. It's not up for debate. The Lord is going to put you to death if you don't actually take heed to the men who He set up to be the teachers on earth, right? It says, verse 15, "And how shall they preach except they be sent?" Right? The Lord has to send His men out. All right, and again, give them the knowledge, wisdom, understanding of these scriptures in these latter days, man. All right, to be able to forewarn the people. It says, "As is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things." Right? So, the Lord, it's a miracle that we even able to get this understanding, and that we get even able to hear it. Right? The fact the Lord actually blesses us with those eyes to see and ears to hear is and nothing short of a miracle, man. Because when we at one point, all brothers, even the mightiest who in the truth now, who are the mightiest in the spirit, at one point we're all walking in complete darkness. We all sin in the air, and we still do constantly to this day, right? But nevertheless, it's the effort and diligence that brother show forth that's going to be required, all right, to obtain that salvation, all right. As it says in Colossians 3rd chapter, about putting on as the elect of the Most High, right? Doing the things that is written that the elect will be doing in the latter days. This is Luke chapter 1. And where's the wrong one? Verse 70. Also up a little bit at verse 68. Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, for he hath visited and redeemed his people, and has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, as he spake by the mouth of his holy prophets, which have been since the world began. So since the very beginning, the Lord's had the prophets on the scene, man. All right, going all the way back to the garden, the Lord has prophets in the midst, right? So it's never it says was it Ecclesiastes 1:9 tell you there's no new thing under the sun, right? The Lord deals in a particular manner. He speaks by way of his men. He doesn't do it by any other means, right? This is Hebrews chapter 1 and verse 1. It says, the Most High, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in times past unto the fathers by the prophets, right? Again, reiterating the point, going precept upon precept, line upon line, that what? The Lord deals with his men or his prophets in order to get the word out and to have the gospel, the good news, be preached, right? Be spread, right? It's not going to be by any other means in which it takes place. Again, another one. This is Daniel chapter 9, verse 10. It says, 9. It says, to the Lord our God belong mercies and forgiveness, though we have rebelled against him. Neither have we obeyed the voice of the Lord our power to walk in his laws, which he set before us by his servants the prophets. Right. Again, these things have always been spoken about, right? And always been, the ways have always been given to us, right? When the Lord put the spirit on particular men, all right, in the flesh, for us to be able to receive these different things. There's no new thing to this day. Again, I'm going getting all these precepts, and to apply all to the current times we're living in, where the Lord is dealing with particular men, right? And he's actually having them, all right, being gathered, all right, to be the foundation, right? To be that governing body ruling, right? As joint heirs with Yahweh Shai in the kingdom of heaven, right? It's literally being gathered right now in these times we're living in. It's going to continue, all the way up until this current kingdom is destroyed, removed, and the kingdom of heaven is established, man, right? To stand for eternity. This is Amos. I quoted this earlier. I want to bring it out, though. Amos chapter 3 and verse 6, it says, shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in the city and the Lord have not done it? Surely the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Shai, will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his